shining light into the darkness. This is the Hamilton Corner on American Family Radio.
Welcome back to the Hamilton Corner, boy. Y'all know how to make me blush on these feeds. Just know I love you back. All right. Shall we get into this foolishness du jour? I mean, shall we commence the weaving? Because, man, I've been, I may not have the budget and the resources of one of these big television networks that invest a lot of money into deceiving people. But I did a little poking around myself. Just a little bit, not too much, not getting too deep. And you guys have heard me say repeatedly on this network and in interviews I've done, I've said repeatedly, all right? If the evidence is there to prove, and I want to make sure these things are parsed out properly, voting fraud, violations of local and state election laws, and voting irregularities, those are three separate categories, okay? Then the evidence should come out. And if there is no evidence, then that would be the best way for the country as a whole, because even those who were displeased by the election results and those who were pleased by the election results, everyone would be able to say, well, this is the way our constitutional republic is to work. The elections functioned as they have been designed, and as it happens in every election, there's some people who supported the candidate who did not win, and there's some who supported the candidate who did win. But it's an entirely different conversation if the election results are the product of irregularities, voting irregularities, violations of election laws, or the largest, or I should say the biggest concern of them all is outright fraud. And unlike other people, and I made the observation on this program, and I think a lot of you picked up on it after I said it, that George Stephanopoulos, the wee little leprechaun, revealed for all the world to see right in the middle of a conversation with Governor Kristi Noem. His first concern was there is no evidence of fraud, right? Remember that? Then in the exact same conversation, he changed. Widespread. Where's the widespread evidence of fraud? And I'm saying, whoa. So we're supposed to all have a baseline level of fraud we're supposed to be comfortable with? I had a friend of mine who said, hey, what if I gave you a cookie? It looked like a chocolate chip cookie, but just one of those chips happened to be dried excrement. Would you want to eat that cookie? No, thank you, sir. I don't want to take the risk that one of the chips is a chip unlike the others. And I'd say, what if I gave you, a New Orleans style, gave you a praline? Some of you may know what praline candies are, praline, but just in there, it might just be a little bit of arsenic. You want that praline? Now, some of you are saying, well, Abe, that's a kind of an extreme example. Who's to say that it's poison? I said, well, how else do you think that you take a constitutional republic with democratic features and you become like Venezuela? That doesn't happen overnight. That happens a little bit of normalized fraud at a time. So I'm going to start, and I'm playing this audio, one, because I know Goebbels Inc. is not going to play it. Two, because I want you to decide for yourself whether or not former Vice President Joe Biden just had a slip of the tongue or is something else going on. And then three, in light of the things that have transpired since this statement was made, it sure piques my interest. So I want you to listen to this. This is a short 23-second clip. Then I'm going to get to some other things. When Joe Biden said for the entire nation to hear that he had put together the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics. Clip 14.
We're in a situation where we have put together, and you guys did it for our the President Obama's administration before this. We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
Now, what else could he have been trying to say? if he's not trying to say what he said? Or is that one of those moments where his mental acuity dipped just enough to where he couldn't help but let the real cat meow out of the bag? I mean, let's really stop and consider whether or not Joe Biden is such a popular candidate that he would get more votes than Barack Obama. I mean, is that what we're saying? Because that's what they're trying to say. And I want you. And remember, that statement was made before the election. That wasn't a post-election statement. That statement was made before the election. Now, I just did a little bit of digging, a little poking around, and I'm going to intersperse the things that I found with the interview that attorney Sidney Powell gave to Maria Bartiromo on the Fox Business Network on Sunday. All right. And I'm going to start it off with a small clip from Maria Bartiromo setting up the clip. And in this string of clips I'm going to play, Sidney Powell, who I would remind you, is really not an attorney who's one of these, like, you know, the difference between these attorneys who camera chasers. You know, there's not a camera they haven't liked in their entire lives and careers. Sidney Powell is not one of those attorneys. She's a former federal prosecutor, a former U.S. attorney. She ultimately ended up representing Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, prevailed upon him to withdraw his guilty plea because she was saying, man, now you're being railroaded, and I'm going to help you fight this thing. And you'll hear one of the clips. She says, listen, I'm not in the habit of coming out and saying things that I can't prove. You know, do with that what you will. But I just want to go down a couple things here because the bulk of her interview with Bartiromo deals with the fraud. And she says that President Trump didn't just win. He won by a lot. That's what she said. All right. Listen to this. This first piece is from Maria Bartiromo, where they're talking about this Dominion company that serves as the voting machine company that was secured by 30 states, 2,000 jurisdictions, 30 states across the country. And Sidney Powell is asserting, and I played some of that audio before from a previous interview, and she goes on even further to say in this interview that Sidney Powell is asserting that that was a primary mechanism used to cheat in this election, and the specific allegations that she's making, not just a few votes here and there, to where there were thousands, hundreds of thousands of votes at a time that was switched from Trump to Biden. That is what she said. And now I know that's a big allegation. You can't just run around spouting that stuff off without being able to prove it. So I want you to listen to her. But first, the first piece of audio, clip 7, is from Maria Bartiromo. Listen to Maria in this audio.
According to public records, Dominion voting machines are used in 2,000 jurisdictions in 30 states. According to experts, if one site has a flaw, other sites are likely to as well, which is why Texas rejected using Dominion software 3 times, raising concerns that the system was not safe from fraudulent or unauthorized manipulation. That's troubling, given we already know that at least 2 software glitches in Georgia and Michigan occurred on election night. Attorney Sidney Powell is leading the charge against Dominion, and she says she has enough evidence of fraud to launch a massive criminal investigation.
Now, what Maria Bartiromo said there, when she said that Texas, on 3 separate occasions, refused to employ, meaning purchase the hardware from Dominion and the attendant software to deal with their votes, that's factual. And so this is one of the things, and I'm just going to tell you, I have some questions. I have questions. For those that are interested in getting to the truth, for those like the Leprechaun, Stephanopoulos and others, who say there's no evidence, have you heard any of them interview anybody from Texas to find out, well, what was it about the Dominion that caused you to reject them 3 times? If you are interested, and listen, I want y'all to stick with me today because I want to show you some evidence that the news media not too long ago had their own concerns about Dominion software. And I'm going to play one piece specifically about NBC News. That's not that long ago. But y'all just stay with me. If you are interested in objectively getting to the bottom of it, if you are in Goebbels Inc., don't you think they should be asking the Secretary of State and the Attorney General of Texas as to why they chose not to use Dominion? I mean, if you want to be an objective pursuer of the truth. Or do they have a vested interest in speeding right past where we are? I mean, do I need to remind us about the 37 days we dealt with Al Gore in 2000? Won't you be interested in talking to the Attorney General and the Secretary of State to find out why didn't y'all use Dominion if you want to know the truth? Listen to this piece of audio that just happened to be Ken Paxton being interviewed by Newsmax TV. Because Goebbels Inc., for some reason, isn't interested. When he is asked about Texas's rejection of Dominion and how long ago they started, they were presented with the opportunity to determine whether or not they wanted to use Dominion. They have rejected Dominion starting all the way back in 2012 and chose not to use them. It's clip number 5.
We tested this, I think, 3 different times from 2012 until more recently, and each time we found system failures, hardware and software, and we discovered that these systems were subject to different types of unauthorized manipulation and potential fraud.
So in layman's terms, General, that means they could be hacked. Votes could be switched, deleted. That's what the president's claiming happened in other states. What do you make of the president's claim through your investigation in Texas and the Secretary of State's investigation? Is that even possible, in your opinion?
We absolutely think that's possible. There is a reason that Texas rejected these. We didn't do it arbitrarily. We did it because we knew that these were unreliable systems. We didn't want to trust them. We didn't want to be in the same situation that some of these other states are in now, where we're questioning the results. So we clearly believe that this was a problem. We tested.
Now, if you have a state, and this isn't new, this is not like this is some information that Abe has a secret vault, and I went to my vault and unlocked and said, oh, by the way, Texas rejected. This is widely accessible information. If you are interested in an objective pursuit of the truth, why not ask, Attorney General Paxton, I realize you guys didn't employ the Dominion hardware or software. Would you explain to us why you rejected it, and what is it specifically that you found that caused you to reject it? Now, you just heard me play Attorney General Paxton just said, well, there were system failures and there were vulnerabilities that made it liable to fraud and abuse. That it could easily be rigged or hacked. Now, if you were interested in an objective reporting of the information, don't you think you want to share that with the American public? But I said objective. Silly me. Silly me. These are things that you and I should begin to question. And I know that there's almost unanimity amongst Goebbels Inc., but that's why I call them Goebbels Inc. It doesn't appear that they're interested in a neutral and objective pursuit of the truth. Then Sidney Powell goes in with a bit of detail and specific allegations as to why she is confident that once the evidence is revealed, that the result of the election in many states will be overturned. That's what she said. Listen to her in clip number 8.
I want to get right into it. We just heard about the software made by Smartmatic from Rudy, and I want to get your take on what you and I spoke about just a few minutes ago, and that is a gentleman named Peter Neffenger. Tell me how he fits into all of this.
Yes, well, he is listed as its former Admiral Peter Neffenger, or retired Admiral Peter Neffenger. He is president and on the board of directors of Smartmatic. And it just so happens he's on Mr. Biden's presidential transition team that's going to be non-existent because we're fixing to overturn the results of the election in multiple states. And President Trump won by not just hundreds of thousands of votes, but by millions of votes that were shifted by this software that was designed expressly for that purpose. We have sworn witness testimony of why the software was designed. It was designed to rig elections. He was fully briefed on it. He saw it happen in other countries. It was exported internationally for profit by the people that are behind Smartmatic and Dominion. They did this on purpose. It was calculated. They've done it before. We have evidence from 2016 in California. We have so much evidence, I feel like it's coming in through a fire hose.
Now, again, Sidney Powell isn't whispering this under some rock in the Galapagos Islands. If you're interested in objective information, she said, we have sworn witness testimony. I explained before, one of the types of evidence that's presented in trial is testimonial evidence. That's one of the most routine pieces of evidence that are offered. When you have witnesses who reduce their testimony to a document called an affidavit, that is documentation of testimonial evidence. If you want to know anything about this, why not interview her, Goebbels Inc.? Because they're not interested in an objective presentation. And specifically, Sidney Powell says this witness was there when the program was created. Now, Smartmatic is software that's used on Dominion's hardware. And as you just heard, don't go anywhere, because I have more audio from Sidney Powell and I have stuff from other sources that you're going to want to be aware of, to where she says, oh no, we have evidence that they literally changed votes. That's a big allegation. Can she prove it? Can she prove it? And when I shared last week about the comparison, and I said this once, I said this last week, you may think having the opportunity to vote for socialism makes it kinder or gentler, but I'll tell you, you only get to vote for socialism once. There are no mulligans. After that, you don't want to miss the rest of this show.
The Hamilton Quarter podcast and 1-minute commentaries are available at AFR.net. Back to the Hamilton Quarter on American Family Radio.
Welcome back to the Hamilton Corner here on American Family Radio. Now, I want to say something, and in fact, Sidney Powell said this in the interview. So, procuring this evidence, securing this evidence is one thing. The next thing is presenting it in a court of law. I have not handled an election fraud case or anything like this in a civil sense, but in a criminal trial sense, I have had some media cases that I've handled at different points. And when you have a case that you have to litigate in court, especially one that's highly sensitive, you're not going to divulge all of the evidentiary sources in the media. All right? Especially when you're concerned about maintaining the, how shall I say this, the safety of your witness. Because I've had the unfortunate experience of having a witness who speaks in public, and then between that public moment and the time to go to court, all of a sudden the witness becomes unavailable. So there is some sensitivity in that. And Maria Bartiromo asked Sidney Powell about that, which is why Sidney Powell is providing the information as broadly and generally as she can in as a prelude to filing the case in court. And so I'll just say I expect the lawsuit that she is a part of to be filed in multiple jurisdictions at some point this week. And the reason why I say that is because it has to happen before early December. All right. It's not because I have some special access or anything. I don't. But knowing the short window of time between Election Day and the Electoral College vote, I mean, it's just somewhat common sense. So she said that to a degree when asked specifically, basically to reveal her trial strategy on national television. Listen to this audio, clip number 9.
Wow. So, Sidney, you feel that you will be able to prove this. Do you have the software in your possession? Do you have the hardware in your possession? How will you prove this, Sidney?
Well, I've got lots of ways to prove it, Maria, but I'm not going to tell on national TV what all we have. I just can't do that.
Now, I know for many of you, you're saying, but we need the information. We need the evidence. And I get that. I get that. But I just would point you to 37 days for Al Gore. 37 days. If they have the evidence, they have it. And if they don't, they don't. But Sidney Powell, she said it herself, I'm not in the habit of saying I have stuff and then I don't really have it. And if they don't have it, I'll be the first to come out here and say, man, the stuff that they're putting up, man, that's garbage. They don't have it. But I would remind you, those who oppose the Trump campaign's lawsuits, they went from saying there's no evidence whatsoever to saying that there's no evidence, there's no widespread evidence. Why that adjustment? Why that change in talking points on the fly? I just present that for your consideration. Now, I'm going to go to this next part. Because the way that Goebbels Inc. operates, oh man, the way that Goebbels Inc. operates, they would have you believe that, oh, this complaint about Dominion's hardware and software, this has solely been relegated to the Trump campaign. We have never, in the history of our existence, heard of anyone castigating the high and impregnable, impenetrable, pristine and austere Dominion. But guess what? That's a flat-out lie. I'm going to start with Sidney Powell saying that. Then I'm going to share with you a little bit of the stuff that I came across in preparation for today's program. Listen to this clip, number 10.
It's really an insidious, corrupt system, and I can't tell you how livid I am with our government for not paying attention to complaints even brought by Democrats, Carolyn Maloney, Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar, over the last several years in written letters with expert reports and some documentation of how corrupt this software is, and nobody in our government has paid any attention to it, which makes me wonder how much the CIA has used it for its own benefit in different places, and why Gina Haspel is still there in the CIA is beyond my comprehension. She should be fired immediately.
Now, did you know? I just happen to have in my little fingers here a letter written on the Congress of the United States' letterhead, a letter dated December 6th, 2019. Guess who it was written to? The CEOs of the company that owns Dominion. The CEOs of Dominion. Oh, yes. This letter was dated, did I say the date yet? December 6th, 2019. Guess who are co-authors of this letter, signed on the letter? United States Senator Elizabeth Warren. Oh, yeah. You remember her who just ran for president in the Democrat Party? If you listen to this program, she is unaffectionately referred to as Liawasa. United States Senator Amy Klobuchar, who just happened to also have run for president in this past year. I would like to read from you an excerpt from the letter that Senators Warren and Klobuchar, who co-authored alongside with Senator Ron Wyden from Wisconsin, who's also a member of the Democrat Party, where they expressed their concern about the Dominion programming for votes, and specifically their concern that people who use the Dominion programs, voters vote for one person and their votes get switched to the other person. Oh, yes. I'm quoting from their letter. Quote, in 2018 alone, voters in South Carolina were reporting machines that switched their votes after they'd inputted them. Scanners were rejecting paper ballots in Missouri, and busted machines were causing long lines in Indiana. In addition, researchers recently uncovered previously undisclosed vulnerabilities in nearly 36 back-end election systems in 10 states. And just this year, that's 2019, after the Democratic candidate's electronic tally showed he received an improbable 164 votes out of 55,000 cast in the Pennsylvania state judicial election in 2019, the county's Republican chairwoman said nothing went right on election day. Everything went wrong. That's a problem. These problems threaten the integrity of our elections and demonstrate the importance of election systems that are strong, durable, and not vulnerable to attack. End quote. Did you guys know Senators Warren and Senator Klobuchar, as well as other Democrats, penned this letter of concern to Dominion? That you had people who actually voted for one person and their votes were switched to the other candidate? I got another question. Knowing that this letter exists, and again, not in secret, this is on congressional letterhead. Doesn't it make you wonder? I wonder why Goebbels Inc. isn't asking Senator Klobuchar and Senator Warren why they wrote that letter in 2019. I mean, has Dominion changed much from December 6, 2019 to November of 2020? Huh? Why isn't somebody having a microphone and a camera right now in these two senators' faces who just ran for president? Are they interested in a neutral and objective pursuit of the truth? Huh? I'll go one better. Not only did Senators Warren and Klobuchar in 2019 raise concerns about Dominion, guess who else had concerns about Dominion? NBC News. I'm going to play for you now a piece of independent reporting by NBC News in 2018. And guess what they were concerned about in 2018? How easy it was to hack into Dominion's election programs. Listen to this in clip number 6.
What was so interesting was I assumed coming into it that the big manufacturers, companies like ES&S and Dominion, had provided these machines to the hackers to, field test them. But no, it turns out there's an extremely hostile relationship there, and that ES&S and Dominion and other companies have basically said we don't want to participate, and really have been quite aggressive in saying we don't want to be part of this. So the organizers were reduced to finding these machines on eBay, which right there is pretty terrifying, because it turns out that anybody can buy some of the most common machines in use on eBay. What was really alarming was when you see these hackers, and these are people who've never seen these machines before, have had no practice on them for the most part, come in and engage them, they immediately get into the guts of them. Beyond that, we were seeing Dominion's ImageCast system. It's a line of tabulators that paper ballots are fed into. That had its guts all over the room. It was not clear to us whether this was the most recent version of the ImageCast hardware, but it's important to note that Georgia just spent over is about to spend over $100 million on a contract with Dominion to provide ImageCast hardware to the state in time for the for the next primaries and for the 2020 election. And yet here these kids were who had opened it up. They said, look, you can pop the front off of it, and here's a port you can get into right here. That's easy. All kinds of stuff that you could certainly do within 6 minutes behind a curtain, much less if you had extra time, because any of these were connected to the web, as we discovered a couple of days before. So many of them are.
So you can do a lot of damage just in 6 minutes behind the curtain. I wonder how much time you could get in the middle of election when you just stop counting. A water main broke in Atlanta when you're connected to the internet. So, you know what this shows me, ladies and gentlemen? We're just talking, right? It shows me that Goebbels Inc. can ask questions when they want. Did you notice that report was in 2018 before the state of Georgia even purchased the Dominion programming? Did you notice that they said, oh, Georgia is about to purchase this for their primary and the 2020 election? So NBC can be interested when they want to be. Now ask yourself, why is it all of a sudden that Goebbels Inc. has no interest whatsoever in any of these claims for irregularities and voting fraud and switching votes and things of that nature? Man, I am telling you, I smell a big, fat, stinky rat. Oh, I'm about to run out of show. Let me play this. I'm going to skip down to number 12. Because, again, just like Texas's refusal to use the Dominion programming, just like NBC News reported in 2018, guess what Sidney Powell and the Trump team are alleging today? I'll let her tell you in her own words. It's clip number 12.
He said that there was an unusual patch that was put into the software while it was live, and it's highly unusual to put a patch in there. Is that what you're referring to? Tell me how it's done and how these back doors work.
Okay, that's part of it. They can stick a thumb drive in the machine or upload software to it, even from the internet. They can do it from Germany or Venezuela even. They can remote access anything. They can watch votes in real time. They can shift votes in real time. We've identified mathematically the exact algorithm they used and plan to use from the beginning to modify the votes in this case to make sure Biden won. That's why he said, yeah, he didn't need your votes now, he would need you later. He was right. I mean, in his demented state, he had no filter and he was speaking the truth more than once, including when he said he had the largest voter fraud organization ever. Well, it's massive election fraud. It's going to undo the entire election. And they can do anything they want with the votes. They can have the machines not read the signature. They can have the machines not read the down ballot. They can make the machines read and catalog only the Biden votes. It's like drag and drop whatever you want, wherever you want, upload votes. Yeah. In fact, we've got math in Michigan and Pennsylvania, I think it is, that all of a sudden hundreds of thousands of votes at a 67% ratio for Biden, 23% for Trump, were uploaded multiple times into the system.
Doesn't that sound a lot like NBC News' report from 2018? Man, listen, I know that in many people's minds that this is an uphill battle, but Abe, everybody else is reporting this. And you wonder why I call them Goebbels Inc. Folks, there is a difference between objective reporting and propaganda. I think you at a minimum have a right to question why NBC in particular would be so interested in 2018, but now they seem completely disinterested in anything having to do with the concerns about the Dominion program. I think you have to ask questions why Senator Elizabeth Warren and Senator Amy Klobuchar raised concerns just in less than a year ago about Dominion. I have one more piece of audio. I want to try to get it in, and we'll end the program on this. It's just about 34 seconds. Clip number 13. Go ahead and play it, Marty.
And Sidney, you say you have an affidavit from someone who knows how this system works and was there with the planning of it. You believe you can prove this in court?
Yes. We have essentially a sworn statement from a witness who knew exactly how it worked from the beginning, why it was designed to work that way, and saw when things started shutting down and they started, stopped counting the votes here, that was the same play that had worked in other countries.
You asked me why. I'm telling you.